What if I whispered the truth about female infidelity and it wasn't what you've been told? It's not just late-night texts, unexplained absences, or attraction to someone else. The real story hides in the quiet moments, the glances that fade, the laughter that feels distant, the intimacy that suddenly seems staged. Most men never notice these subtle shifts. And by the time the betrayal shows itself, it's not the act that hurts most, it's the story behind it. Stay with me because in this video, I'm pulling back the curtain on what every man needs to understand. If you're serious about seeing relationships clearly, go ahead and subscribe now. Every man asks, why would she do this? But it's rarely simple. It's not always about the bedroom. Not always about someone younger, richer, or more attractive. Female cheating often comes from deeper, more complex motives, hidden in plain sight. Here's the truth. Women cheat differently than men. Men might act on opportunity. Women often arrive at infidelity after months, sometimes years, of inner dialogue. It's rarely spontaneous. It's prepared, justified, rationalized. And that's why so many men are blindsided. I am Jane, and in this journey, I'll share the psychological secrets most men never hear. We'll explore those hidden moments, the sudden generosity, the way she avoids her gaze, the excuses that sound too perfect. Some men sense the shift instantly. Others don't realize until the final confession shatters them. By the end, you'll not only recognize the signs, you'll understand the why behind them. You'll see the emotional patterns that reveal more than any detective ever could. I'll take you into raw, vivid stories where love, secrecy, and desire collide. Keep watching, because what you're about to learn won't just help you spot betrayal, it will change how you understand intimacy itself. Let me tell you a story. There's a man named John, late 30s, successful, proud of his life. Everything looks perfect on the outside: house, family dinners, vacations frozen in pictures. But one evening, across the table, he notices something different. His wife, Lizzy, isn't unhappy or angry. She's just somewhere else. Her laughter feels measured. When he jokes, she smiles politely, but her eyes drift toward her phone. He tells himself she's tired, stressed from work. Yet, deep inside, he feels a quiet unease. Something has shifted. Lizzy has been wrestling with feelings she can't name. She doesn't feel invisible because John doesn't care, but because she's stopped feeling seen. Daily routines became hollow. Conversations about bills, kids, errands. Desire quietly slipped away. Then someone noticed her, not with grand gestures, just attention. A colleague asked about her day, truly listened. A glance that lingered. A spark she thought was gone. For Lizzy, it wasn't about betraying John. It was about remembering herself, the playful, alive woman she thought was lost. But leaning into that feeling led to secrecy. A deleted text here, a withheld detail there. Slowly, the invisible wall between them grew. John continued to dismiss the signs. The phone always face down. Late nights. He trusted her completely. Until one night, she came home late. He looked into her eyes and felt a piercing distance. He asked, "Is everything okay?" She smiled, touched his arm, said, "Of course." Hollow reassurance. In that instant, John knew something sacred had shifted. This is the tragedy of infidelity. It rarely starts physically. It begins with attention, with emotional gaps, with small cracks where another person can slip in. By the time the act occurs, the true betrayal has already happened, not in the body, but in the heart. Pause here. This story isn't just John and Lizzy. It's a pattern in countless relationships. A man believing everything is fine. No fights, no red flags. A woman feeling unseen, disconnected, quietly searching for a place to feel alive again. Infidelity isn't always about dissatisfaction with you. It can be about dissatisfaction with herself. A longing to reconnect with the part of her identity that went dormant. And the more she hides it, the wider the distance grows, until that distance becomes the first betrayal. Picture John again. He's replaying moments in his mind. The nights he brushed off her complaints about being too busy, the evenings she reached for him while he was glued to his phone, the tiny hints she dropped that never landed. It's not about blame, it's about blindness. John realizes that while he was faithful in body, he may have been absent in presence. Lizzy feels torn. Guilt creeps in, yet she justifies her actions. I'm not doing this to hurt him. I need to feel alive. That justification fuels the secrecy. What John doesn't yet know is that her affair isn't just desire. It's escape from routine, from invisibility, from a version of herself she barely recognizes. Their story unfolds quietly, like many others. Not with shouting matches, but with silent disconnections. And when the truth comes, it's not just the act that hurts, it's realizing how long it's been happening in plain sight. Infidelity isn't about a single crossing of a line, it's about the invisible story behind it. Until you see that story, you'll always be blindsided. Here's the first key insight. Infidelity begins long before it becomes physical. Most men imagine betrayal as one night, one choice, but it starts earlier, in attention and emotion. Her energy, curiosity, excitement, once directed at you, finds another outlet. Maybe a conversation at work, a harmless text, or a thought she entertains quietly at night. It's not the interaction itself, but the meaning she attaches to it. That meaning becomes fuel. Relationships thrive on shared attention. Her eyes, her laughter, her secrets. When these drift elsewhere, the foundation weakens. The signs aren't always obvious. Sometimes it's distraction. Sometimes detachment. Sometimes a new passion that excludes you. Many men focus only on the obvious signals, hidden calls, receipts, or lipstick. But the true signs are quieter. The way her body leans away when you sit next to her. Shorter responses, while her conversations with someone else grow longer. The pauses when she seems lost in thought, and you don't know where her mind has wandered. Here's the deeper truth. This shift isn't born from hate or rejection. It comes from a longing to feel alive, desired, noticed. Many men misread this, assuming she doesn't love them anymore. But often, her cheating is less about love lost and more about recognition missing. Think of Lizzy. Her affair began not in the bedroom, but in a glance, a question, a spark of being seen. Keep watching, because the next part will show you how subtle behaviors reveal the truth long before the heart feels the betrayal. And if you're ready to really understand what's happening in her mind, I am Jane, and I'm going to guide you through it. That was the seed. And because John didn't notice the shift, it quietly grew, hidden in the shadows. So, here's the first insight. Watch where her emotional energy goes. The second insight. Guilt and secrecy often arrive together, woven subtly into her behavior. Guilt rarely looks dramatic, no tears, no sudden confessions. Instead, it hides in small, almost invisible actions. She might overcompensate, becoming unusually attentive or unexpectedly kind. A thoughtful gift, a surprise gesture, sudden eagerness to please. These aren't always about love. Often, they are ways she balances her own conscience. Secrecy, on the other hand, creeps in silently. Her phone, once left casually, is now always in hand. Screens tilted away, schedules vague, answers technically true but incomplete. You ask, "What kept you late?" She says, "Work was busy," with no detail. The avoidance isn't in her words, it's in what she leaves unsaid. Secrecy is addictive. One hidden truth feels like relief. He didn't notice. I'm safe. That relief makes the next concealment easier. And yet, guilt never fully disappears. It shows in restless nights, subtle defensiveness, or sudden accusations of mistrust. If she feels guilty, she may project it onto you, even when you've done nothing wrong. Take Lizzy again. She began deleting texts, telling herself, "It's nothing. I just don't want John to misunderstand." But each hidden message built a wall. Soon, checking her phone became secretive, even around casual questions. Though John didn't confront her, she grew anxious under his gaze. Here's the truth. Guilt and secrecy rarely stay invisible. They slip through body language, tone, and small inconsistencies. She says she's fine, but her eyes wander. She laughs, but it doesn't reach her eyes. Don't just listen to her words. Watch her patterns: overcompensation, secrecy, subtle shifts. When love is layered with guilt, actions can seem like affection or busyness, but underneath lies a double life she's struggling to reconcile. Learn to read these signals, and you'll see that guilt is rarely loud. It's silent, wrapped in generosity, hidden in small excuses. And secrecy, once it begins, rarely stays hidden. Let me tell you another story, this time with a twist. Mark thought he was one of the lucky ones. His marriage felt solid. His wife, Elena, was warm, affectionate, and their friends admired them as the perfect couple. He often told himself, "This could never happen to us. Affairs happen to others, not me." But one evening, while folding laundry, Mark noticed something unusual. Elena's perfume lingered stronger than usual, and she had come home later than expected. Her cheeks were flushed, her explanation casual. He brushed it off. After all, hadn't she been extra attentive, even playful lately? Here's the twist. The very gestures he interpreted as love, the kisses, the attention, the warmth, were signs of guilt, not devotion. Every compliment, every thoughtful act was an attempt to quiet the voice inside her head whispering, "I'm betraying him." For weeks, Mark felt torn. On one hand, she seemed closer than ever, planning date nights and cooking his favorite meals. On the other, her phone was always near, her explanations too polished, and sometimes her eyes betrayed a flicker of distance she masked with a smile. The truth hit hardest when he finally confronted her, not because the physical betrayal shocked him, but because the signs had been there all along, hidden in plain sight, and he had mistaken them for love. Here's the key insight. Betrayal doesn't always show as distance or coldness. Sometimes it hides in intensity, devotion, or warmth. The closeness you celebrate may actually be camouflage for secrecy. Distance can be a warning, yes, but so can sudden, almost exaggerated attention. Mark's story teaches a painful truth. Infidelity is not always obvious. Sometimes it hides in the very presence you trust. And now, we're ready to dive deeper. In the next part, I'll show you 2 more insights, revealing the hidden psychology behind her actions. Why behaviors that seem contradictory often make perfect sense when you understand guilt, secrecy, and desire. Keep watching, because the next insights could change how you see everything about connection and trust. We've seen how guilt and secrecy sneak into everyday moments, often hiding betrayal behind gestures that feel like affection. But there are 2 more insights you need if you want the full picture. Third insight. Rationalization is her shield. When a woman betrays, it's rarely impulsive. The mind hates contradiction. Loving one man while desiring another creates unbearable tension. So, she builds a story to justify her actions. She whispers to herself, "I'm not really cheating. If he noticed me more, I wouldn't be here. I deserve this. I've given so much. Now it's my turn." These stories don't erase guilt. They soften it, make her choices feel less destructive. Psychologists call this cognitive dissonance reduction. For you, the betrayed partner, this is dangerous. She may shift blame subtly, reframing betrayal as a response to your shortcomings. If you only hear her words, without seeing the underlying psychology, you'll carry guilt that was never yours. Fourth insight. The body speaks what the mouth conceals. If rationalization is the story she tells herself, her body reveals the truth. Eyes, posture, tone, tiny signals leak honesty. You ask, "How was your day?" She says, "Fine," but her gaze breaks too soon. Arms crossed defensively. Calm, controlled composure hides inner conflict, or sudden intensity masks guilt. During intimacy, she may pull away slightly or push forward more than usual, not just from desire, but to cover suspicion. The body becomes the battlefield where secrecy and guilt collide. Words may say one thing, the body whispers another. Pause here and take this in. I'm Jane, and I want you to feel this personally. These insights aren't about turning you into a detective. They're about awakening your awareness. Because betrayal doesn't just hurt, it makes you question your own instincts. And if something feels off, it usually is. Like this if you've ever felt your intuition dismissed. And keep watching, because the next part reveals the final layer that most men completely miss. Not because you're imagining things, but because your subconscious has already picked up on the subtle body signals, the shifts in energy, the small gaps between words and actions. The tragedy is most men silence that intuition, telling themselves it's nothing. But ignoring that whisper doesn't erase the truth. It only delays the moment when reality hits hard. The third and fourth insights together reveal a layered reality. Her mind crafts stories to survive contradiction, while her body quietly exposes the truth. If you learn to read both, betrayal stops being a sudden shock. It becomes a pattern unfolding right before your eyes. Keep watching, because now we go deeper. Beneath all the signs, rationalizations, and secrecy lies the hidden truth about infidelity that almost no one talks about. Here it is. Infidelity is often not about replacing you, it's about replacing herself. The affair isn't just about another man. It's about the version of herself she rediscovers, alive, desired, playful, adventurous, qualities that may have faded in the routine of daily life. Betrayal, then, is existential. She's chasing a lost self. This is why so many men are blindsided. They think she wanted someone better, but often, she only wanted to feel like her best self again. The affair becomes a mirror reflecting vitality or passion she fears she has lost. Think of Lizzy. When she looked at her colleague, it wasn't only him. She saw the woman she once was, playful, spontaneous, full of life. That's why the betrayal feels so intoxicating, and letting it go feels impossible. She isn't only lying to you, she's lying to herself. That secret world feels freeing, but it's a prison built on deception. For you, this means the signs you notice, the secrecy, the distance, the rationalizations, are only surface waves. Beneath them is the real current, her search for identity, her hunger to feel alive again. Without seeing this, you'll always fight the wrong battle, thinking it's about him when it's about her. By the end of this journey, you'll not just recognize betrayal, you'll understand it. And when you do, you can see patterns, protect your heart, and respond with clarity, not confusion. Like this if you felt blindsided before, and subscribe, because what we're uncovering here changes how you see love, trust, and intimacy forever. Now, let me show you the transformational insight, the shift that doesn't just reveal betrayal, but gives you the power to reclaim yourself. We've walked through the shadows together, the quiet redirection of attention, the guilt and secrecy, the rationalizations, the body that speaks what words conceal. We've even uncovered the deepest layer. Sometimes she cheats not to replace you, but to rediscover herself. Here's the truth. Betrayal is not only about what she did. It's about what it awakens in you. Yes, the pain cuts deep. The lies shake your sense of reality. But beyond that devastation lies an invitation to reclaim yourself, to trust your intuition, and to define your own worth, whether with her or without her. Imagine John again. The affair left him feeling stripped and betrayed. But in time, he realized the real lesson wasn't about her. It was about his own blindness. He had silenced the whispers, ignored the unease, and mistook silence for safety. Healing came not from punishing her, but from trusting himself again, saying, "I will never again dismiss my intuition. I will never abandon myself for peace." That is the power hidden in betrayal. It strips away illusions and forces you to confront what is real. Painful, yes, but transformative. And I am Jane, reminding you that your response to this truth can define the next chapter of your life. If you've ever felt blindsided, comment your thoughts and like this video to support others navigating the same journey. And before you go, subscribe. Be part of a space where we see the truth, face it together, and grow stronger from it.